Cleveland Browns come back from the Greenbrier, and now it's time for the training camp, the real deal training camp. They're back in Berea. The pass was on Sunday. I'm going to give you a full inside access look at what the Browns were doing, and we're going to get to the 53-man roster cuts. That's way too early. I'm going to give you a preview of that and tell you what camp battles you should be watching this week coming up on the Ultimate Browns. Welcome to the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports. It's the Ultimate Browns. I'm your host, G. Bush. It is football time, boys and girls. All the shorts, all the little stuff that's behind us. We got some real football to talk about this week because the Browns are going to have a preseason game coming up in a few days. In about 6 days here, we'll be talking about the Browns' first preseason game, and we're going to get you ready for that right now. Coming up in the show, we will have some camp sights and sounds from Berea. They practiced on Sunday. We'll have you some 7-on-7. You'll see Deshaun Watson dropping dimes all over the place. We'll talk about that. Jeudy was back at practice. He caught a nice little touchdown pass from Deshaun Watson in the 7-on-7 drills. We'll talk to him about what's going on. You'll see an article that he's talking about the potential trade of Brandon Aiyuk. Yeah, that's crazy kind of, right? He actually is on the record talking about it. So we'll give you guys some insights onto Jerry Jeudy and what he had to say about Brandon Aiyuk. And then, but first, before we get to any of that, let's get off into this Browns, roster camp business. See, I was sitting there doing a little exercise. I was talking to my dad the other, probably about, a few hours ago. And we were going down, the whole situation and talking about who's going to make this team and who's going to be on that 53-man roster, because right now the Cleveland Browns roster is pretty much set. There's a couple of guys here or there that may make the team, but for the most part, there isn't very many roster spots open up and available. And the one roster spot that I keep talking about that no one seems to actually have been really pointing out is DTR and Tyler Huntley. That is, to me, going to be one of the biggest roster battles that we have. I think there's going to be some roster battles in the offensive line, roster battles in the defensive line, and then some roster battles in the linebacker position as well. But Dogs by Nature, shout out to my man Barry Shook, who works for Dogs by Nature, good friend of the show. Dogs by Nature had an article out that predicted the 53-man roster. And to be truthful, they had it hitting on all levels. I couldn't even really be mad at it. But a couple of things stood out to me and that I didn't agree with. But they did preface it and say this is due to injuries. But we're going to take a look at this article by Dogs by Nature, and we're going to go through it name by name, position group by position group. And I'll tell you what I think about this list and whether or not there's some things that I would change around. So let's get off into this situation. Let's bring this up, man. So let me just start by giving you the preface of it. In the article says the Cleveland Browns are about to unveil the public for the first time in 2024. The first practice is open to the public. This was today on Sunday. We've got you covered with some of the sights and sound, like we said, so keep it locked to the rest of the show. One of just 6 practices that's open to the public is one of those practices that happened today. You'll get a better look and see what the new offense looks like as the Browns training camp returns to Berea. So far, training camp did not have a lot of big news from the Cleveland Browns, except for the recent report on Nick Chubb and reportedly running and cutting in practice. We talked about that if you've been listening to the show. It says projecting a 53-man roster could be tough due to changes in the NFL's kickoff rule. Shortly after the first wave of free agency, we provided you with a 53-man roster projection, but a number of changes have happened to the 90-man roster since including the NFL draft. With a day off on Saturday, they talk about putting together this list, and you have that in front of you as we speak. Looking at their list, I really can't be too mad at what they got going on so far. But the thing that I look at right off the bat is quarterback. They have 3 quarterbacks making the roster, and I agree with that. There will be 3 quarterbacks on the squad. I, however, don't agree with the 3 that made it in their cut. Watson, Jameis Winston, no brainers. We don't even got to talk about that. It comes down to me, Tyler Huntley, and DTR. And I was as high on DTR as anybody, right? I think he could play in this league. I think he has backup potential in this league. However, I do want to say this right now. I think the Cleveland Browns went out and got Tyler Huntley for a reason. Tyler Huntley has played meaningful football snaps if for a division rival in the Baltimore Ravens. He's, people laugh and joke about being a Pro Bowler, which, is kind of funny. But at the end of the day, Huntley brings a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience to the table. DTR has only played a handful of games. He played against the Denver Broncos. He played against the Steelers, played against the Ravens, right? Where he really wasn't really prepared to play against the Ravens. Got a big time win against the Steelers where, we didn't move the ball all too well. And then against the Broncos, got knocked out of that game. But for me, I take a look at it. You can't even put DTR on the practice squad. He's too good for that. Somebody's going to snatch him up. So the way I see this thing playing out, you're going to see Huntley and DTR really battle for that position. Whoever comes out looking the best, the Browns will look to trade that individual. We've seen that done before with multiple quarterbacks in the past. Josh Dobbs is just the most recent of them. Kellen Mond, they cut, brought back, traded. So they do that a lot with the Browns. Like, they'll definitely showcase them, see who comes out on top with that battle, and then they'll go and shop the rest of the guys to see if they can get a 5th or 6th round pick from it. It's going to be a close camp battle. I give the edge to Huntley because of his experience level. DTR got an arm, he could play. I like it. But right now, I think for what we're trying to do, for the Cleveland Browns giving themselves the best opportunity and chance to win, I think the best part about keeping Huntley is we saw what P.J. Walker was able to do. You saw what it looked like when you had to go to Flacco, when you had to go to some other guys besides P.J. Walker and DTR. I think the Cleveland Browns believe that Huntley, in a case where you must have somebody backing up in case the inevitable or the unthinkable happens, where you got Deshaun Watson or Jameis Winston go down, I'm much more comfortable with Huntley getting me a game that I need to get at the end of the year over DTR. It's just as simple as that. So, God forbid that Watson or Winston both go down. But I think the Cleveland Browns learned from last year, and they said, listen, we need to be project stockpile. I need competent quarterbacks that have taken snaps before, that all have some sort of the same skill set to varying degrees. And I like DTR. I like him a lot. He'll have an opportunity to go out and compete against for the job. But let me be clear. I think that's one of the big camp battles that we start with. It's the quarterback for roster spot number 3. And it's going to be one of those that you're going to see throughout the rest of training camp. Let's get to the running back situation, right? They have on this list, they got Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, Nyheim Hines, Pierre Strong making the roster. Now, because they did say Deontay Foreman injury concern kept him off the roster for now, it has been some updated information that says Deontay Foreman is a guy who was trending to getting back on the field. Nothing serious, and God, bless him for being able to come out of that scary situation unscathed relatively. I believe that Deontay Foreman is definitely taking that position from Pierre Strong, and I like Pierre Strong. Don't get me wrong. I liked this game. I thought he should have got more carries last year. He's definitely a guy that's going to play in the preseason, may make the practice squad, because I do like his running ability. And I do like the fact that he plays special teams. But Nyheim Hines is going to be a guy that they're going to be using for the kickoff rule. That is going to be your guy, right? That's going to be your guy, the special teams guy. Obviously, Jerome Ford will probably be, relative your starting running back game 1 if Nick Chubb isn't ready to go. And Deontay Foreman is your short yardage back, a pound guy, a guy that can get in there and mix things up a little bit. So I have only problem I have with this is Deontay Foreman will probably end up making a roster over Pierre Strong. Let's continue to move on. Wide receiver, Mari Cooper, you already know what that is. He's the number 1 guy on the list. Jerry Jeudy, obviously. Elijah Moore, obviously. But then it gets past the top 4. You're taking a look at what's going on. You got Cedric Tillman, David Bell, Jamari Thrash. They're keeping 6 receivers. I don't have much of a problem with that. Cedric Tillman, they drafted. David Bell, they drafted. Jamari Thrash, they drafted. Anytime that you draft those guys within the last few years, you're not going to be gun-ho to get rid of any of those guys. So it's an uphill battle for guys like Mike Woods. You got the big kid, who he came from Arkansas, his Landers. He's a guy who's been making some waves. It's going to be a difficult uphill battle for him. There's also a few other guys that they've drafted. So those guys are going to be practice squad looks. They're going to have to really come out and do something over the top crazy for them to make the roster. I don't have a problem with the wide receiver. If I had to pick 6, that's the 6 I would take as well. So we're pretty solid on that. David Njoku, Jordan Akins are no-brainer. My question is this. They have him taking 3 tight ends right now. Giovanni Ricci is at number 3, third tight end, and keep it 3 tight ends. If he can play special teams, I'm sure that he might be in the mix for that. My question is, would they be tempted with the way they're throwing the football to keep a 7th receiver over a 3rd tight end? Right here, looks like they would probably keep another tight end there, especially Stefanski likes tight ends, but I don't know if that's going to fit the mold of what they want to do. But I don't got a problem with that. That's give or take. If you want to take, say 3 tight ends and 6 receivers, no problem with that. We'll take your word for it and keep it pushing. Jed Wills, Joe Batonio, Ethan Pochich, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, DeJuan Jones. Those are the 6, right? Jack Conklin is probably your swing tackle at this point. He's still injured. He's waiting to come back and get into the mix. James Hudson is going to be right now your 2nd team tackle. Luke Whippler is a guy you spend a draft pick on, and Browns feel like that may be the center of the future. Zach Zenner obviously can fill in both guard positions, and Michael Dunn is another guy who's a veteran. Now, for me, I could see them only taking 9 and keeping Michael Dunn off the list, because if I could get 9 linemen, especially because Zach Zenner could play both guards, I'm going to take that extra roster spot and put it somewhere else I can allocate for things that could be borderline. Let's go to the defensive line. This is a no-brainer. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Obo Akaranko, Alex Wright, and they have Isaiah McGuire making the roster here as a defensive end. I would rather lean on taking less defensive ends and taking 1 more defensive tackle, because as we talk about it, you got Dalvin Tomlinson, who right now is out with offseason knee surgery. Maurice Hurst is out right now, who's been banged up a little bit. You got Quentin Jefferson, Siaki Ika, Michael Hall Jr. Now, here's the thing. Shelby Harris, they left off this roster, which is not going to happen. I don't know who wrote that. That's not happening. Shelby Harris is going to be on this roster. So you take Isaiah McGuire off, and Shelby Harris will be on. That's another thing. The other one that I took a little bit of, I said, no, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. So if you do that, if you take off Isaiah McGuire, pick Shelby Harris in there, that works for me. So the only other position that I think is kind of up in the air is linebacker. Right now, Dogs by Nature has JOK, Jordan Hicks. Those guys are no-brainers. I think Devin Bush will make this roster. He probably might even start. Mohamed Diabate and Bookie Watson. Nathaniel Watson to those. He's been making some noise. Mary Kay, I had her on my radio show. She said that he looked like he was a guy that could be pro-ready to help the Browns out. I don't got a problem with those 5 right there. If we go back and look at some of the other ones that we say, well, can we get something? Are they interested in taking a Giovanni Ricci out and maybe putting a Tony Fields, because he is a special team guy? That's another thing we would talk about. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm cool with those 5. Let's go to the corners. Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome, Cameron Mitchell, and Tony Brown. Those 5 seem to be guys that are locks. Obviously, Thornhill, Grant Delpit, DeAnthony Bell, and Hickman are locks to me. Now, DeAnthony Bell has been out a little bit with some injuries in the offseason, but I do think those 4, because he's such a good special team player, and Hickman's going to play special teams too, I think the safeties are there as well. And there's another guy we didn't talk about. We don't got a Rodney McLeod here, and I think he's going to be in the mix too. So if they keep McLeod, Tony Brown might not make this roster. To be honest with you, but because McLeod is there. And then for special teams, Charlie Hewitt is the long snapper, Dustin Hopkins, and obviously Borquez. That puts you at 53. And they talked about from the 90-man roster, there's talented players not making the 53-man above roster, including Foreman and Harris. I think Deontay Foreman and Harris are locks for those positions. The only people that I think would not really be on this list to me is Tyler Huntley. I got him over DTR. I think Matt Landers might end up on the practice squad. Dingy and Tony Fields, I think, could compete for one of those positions. Khalifa Halise, Hardy Jr. Hardy Sr. I almost said Hardy Jr. and Miles Harden. Those cornerbacks, they may be practice squads. So as you can see, the Browns don't really have very many roster spots available to do anything with. I think that gives you an opportunity and shows you that the Browns have a bunch of talent at a lot of positions, and there's very few roster spots, right? I think the camp battles will be at linebacker. There'll be some camp battles at receiver for maybe possibly the sixth receiver. If Matt Landers and it continues to work out and show big stuff in the preseason, I think he could compete. You're going to have some stuff for the 10th position. The question is, are you going to keep 9 linemen? Right? Are you going to keep 9 offensive linemen or 10? And are you going to keep, how many defensive ends are you going to keep? Are you going to keep 5 defensive ends? And then possibly you have to shorten yourself up where Siaki Ika might be available. But here's the reason I don't think Siaki Ika was going to get cut. You got a guy like, he's the only second true nose tackle in the building. You got Dalvin Tomlinson. He's coming off injury. So if you want to talk about a guy who's a first down run stopper, that is what Ika brings to the table. And he's the only one with that body type. Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Harris, and Mo Hurst are more of pass rushers. So he fits the true nose tackle position. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going on with that. It's a couple positions available and open, but I think that's a good problem for the Browns to have, because past years, we didn't have no extra for nobody. Past years, we would have had guys that weren't really pro-level players starting because we needed to fill holes. I think we're now turning the corner, and you see a Browns team where you're going to have a really solid roster and not very many roster positions open as camp winds down. Coming back, we'll get to our first break. When we get back, we'll talk about Jerry Jeudy. He made his he made his debut in front of the Browns fans at practice, made a nice touchdown catch from Deshaun Watson, a bomb. And he's looking great, but he had something to say about the potential of adding one Brandon Aiyuk to the Browns wide receiver room. We'll come back and examine that, and I'll tell you whether or not the Aiyuk situation, if there's smoke or is it fire with the Cleveland Browns. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. You're listening to the Ultimate Browns right here on the UCSS Network. Let's talk about the great people at FanDuel. Major League Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to get and place bets on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets guarantee. That's $150 bonus bucks back, win or lose. Bet on everything from hockey to NFL to NHL to Major League Baseball, and you can do that on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel/UCSS and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Jerry Jeudy. He talked about being back and being able to get back on the field. He was working out off some minor injuries, had a nice day of practice on Sunday, was able to catch a deep pass from Deshaun Watson, stepping up in the pocket. He was able to throw him in and catch him on the right-hand sideline and for a big play. So always excited to see those big plays from Jerry Jeudy, and I think he's going to have a breakout year. But what was most interesting was the fact that he talked about some of the trade rumors with Brandon Aiyuk. The Browns have been, mentioned amongst a few other teams as a team that could be a possible landing spot for Brandon Aiyuk for the San Francisco 49ers. Aiyuk is disgruntled. He asked for a trade. And he wants about $30 million a year. Right now, the impasse is about $10 million. The 49ers are reported on giving them or being comfortable with giving them about $20 million, but that's a large amount of money in between $20 and $30 million. Now, it's been speculated on that the reason the Browns' names continue to be, thrown out there is because Amari Cooper is on his last year of his deal. He doesn't have any more guaranteed money after this year. The Browns restructured his deal, gave him another $5 million guaranteed to the 20 that he was already guaranteed this year. And so if you think about it, if you have a situation where the 49ers say, hey, look, we're not willing to pay Brandon Aiyuk that type of money and give him a new deal. Hey, why don't we swap receivers 1 for 1? We feel like Brandon Aiyuk he's a little better because he's a little younger, more upside. But when you got a 5-time Pro Bowler, one of the better route runners coming off a really great year, it's speculated that the 49ers would take a swap for Brandon Aiyuk because of the comparable skill sets and the fact that they aren't going to lose much when you do get an Amari Cooper because he is such a good receiver, a solid receiver. So that's why they've been mentioning all of these guys all the time with the Browns and Aiyuk back and forth. But this article written by Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, make sure you go check her workout. And it talks about Brandon Aiyuk was added to the roster. How does Jerry Jeudy feel about that? And says, Browns receiver Jerry Jeudy hails from a star-studded 2020 receiver class and would welcome another into the fold if the Browns pull off a trade for 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who was picked 10 spots behind Jeudy at number 25 overall. He said it's just making the receiver core a lot better. Jeudy said Sunday, day 8 of Browns training camp. Brandon Aiyuk is a great player, so bringing him on the team, we're going to make the team better and help us win more games, and that's the goal, to win more games. The Browns could be in the mix for Aiyuk, who asked to be traded on July 16th and staged a hold-in during training camp. The loaded 49ers haven't been willing to pay Aiyuk the $30 million a year he's seeking, but the Browns might be up for it, considering he'd be the cornerback of their offense for the next 5 years or so. I would say cornerstone. They might have to part with Pro Bowler, 5-time Pro Bowler Amari Cooper to pull it off, but long-term game might be worth the short-term pain. In the meantime, Jerry Jeudy participated in team drills for the first time in training camp and made the most of his first reps with Deshaun Watson. In the perfect mic drop to practice, Jeudy made a diving catch of a Watson play-action pass, beating quarterback Khalifi Halassi to a deep ball in the right corner of the end zone. And I would welcome Brandon Aiyuk into the fold because I think that really, really makes our offense better. So for me, when I hear that comment, I don't think he's really going out endorsing like, hey, let's trade Amari Cooper for Brandon Aiyuk. He's saying if they did add Brandon Aiyuk to the team, he's a great player, and it would obviously make the Browns a better team. I don't think he's saying that at the expense of trading Amari Cooper. Obviously, he has no take in that. He has no, he doesn't really have any say-so in whether the Browns make that move or not. And so for me, I've been on record with this a lot. I've been on record saying that I don't believe that the Browns should trade Amari Cooper for Brandon Aiyuk. Now, if they ended up getting him and they felt like that was the best opportunity for the Browns to, go to the next level, then I would have to get behind it. But the reason is not that it's Aiyuk. For me, the reason I would have hard time doing it is because you already got a situation where you're trying to get used to Jerry Jeudy and Deshaun Watson. Heck, Deshaun Watson and Elijah Moore haven't played that many games together. Obviously, you're still trying to get used to that. You still want to see some of the same chemistry that David Njoku had with Joe Flacco at the end of the year. We want to see that type of energy and that type of connection with Deshaun Watson. So, when you're trying to incorporate all these new pieces and parts, including introducing the run game into some of this stuff as you start to evolve into more motion, into more college concepts, it's hard to just say, let's just throw Brandon Aiyuk in here and your first preseason game is on Saturday. You're like, okay, do you really want that type of I would say that that's a very short runway in order to getting ramped up in order to get to where you want to go. So is Brandon Aiyuk a great player? Sure. Is Brandon Aiyuk somebody that I think eventually can help the Browns become a better team? Sure, I do. I believe that. But as of today, if you tell me, do you want an Aiyuk that has not been practicing, not been playing, or over an Amari Cooper who is in his second year with third year with the Browns, who has an opportunity to build on a great year that he had, and he's just one of the best guys and best locker room guys. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Amari Cooper. I think the Browns receiving core can be dynamic. I just want to see it mature and get to a point where guys are playing often with each other and finding a rapport. As I did say, is Aiyuk good? Sure. But I don't know if you really want to go into that with a new offensive coordinator in Dorsey, a new passing concept, and two new receivers with Jeudy and Brandon Aiyuk. I don't think I don't think it's feasible to think that you're going to have that happen and go through that without any hitches. When we get back, we're going to get some camp sights and sounds from Berea. We take a look at Deshaun Watson. You'll see that throw that he had to Jeudy. You'll see him work on 7-on-7s, working against the defense. And I'll tell you why. People in the league should be scared a little bit because right now this Browns offense is looking like it could be something special. You're listening to G. Bush in the Ultimate Browns. As always, we got a bunch of other content that you guys should be checking out right here on the UCSS network. We got Zach Meisel, Adam the Bull on the Ultimate Guardians. You check that out. That's 2 times a week. Guardians in first place, so you don't want to miss that content when it comes out. Basketball free agency is still there, even though it doesn't seem like the Cavs are doing anything. I'm just saying. But if they do something, the first people you should be watching is Mikey McNuggets, Jason Lloyd for the Ultimate Cavaliers. They'll have any breaking news. Kenny Atkinson, head coach. Make sure you check those guys out over there at the Ultimate Cavaliers. Earl the Pearl, Ultimate 216. If you're into the community, he has an intersection between culture, sports, and the local community into 216. So make sure you check that out. He has some real interesting guests on there that represent the community, and continue to support him over at the UCSS network. And then you got me, the big homie himself, 2 times a week. Ultimate Browns. If you're a Browns fan, you don't want to miss what we got going on. We're going to bring back, we got people come back. Tyvis will be back during the season. Quincy Carrier, fan favorite, will be back during the season as well. And we're going to be rocking and rolling twice a week, every single week, to get your Browns fix. And don't forget, make sure you subscribe so you know when all those channels come up, and so you can be notified of our content as it drops. One more segment to go right here on the Ultimate Browns. G. Bush in with you, of course. We want to thank everybody for continued support over here on the Ultimate Browns, showing us some love. Continue to share this content, and make sure you put it on Facebook, Twitter. Make sure you comment in the comment section and let me know. Do you think that the Browns roster, can you give me 1 or 2 guys that you think could be a surprise cut for the Cleveland Browns? Put that in the description below, and we'll have a good conversation about it. One thing that I do say, and I think a lot of people are really excited about, is the fact that Deshaun Watson looks like he's back to rare form, right? This is courtesy of Cam Justice. Make sure you check her out at Cammy Justice. Follow her on Twitter. She's been doing a great job of putting up all and shout out to all the people that's out there. From the channels, from whether you're a blogger, Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 19, whatever case may be, on Twitter, for giving fans an opportunity to see some of this content, to see the Browns if we can't get out there face to face and check these guys out, at training camp in Berea. But as you can see right now, Deshaun Watson is out here looking like he has a lot of command of the offense, so to speak. You can see him scrambling, moving around. I think they've done a lot more different things with fakes, guys in motion, as you can see right there, throwing the ball, getting the ball to Amari Cooper. And in general, I just think that the Browns offense has a lot more movement to it. I had Jake Burns on my radio show, and he talked about some of the things that the Browns wanted to do, from the old Kubiak style that you had with, Kevin Stefanski, you had more 3 tight end sets, and they needed to get a little better. They needed to be a little more creative in terms of getting easier yards, using motion and different things like that. And so you can see, and I've seen Deshaun Watson here parts of 3 years, and you can see that he's much more comfortable, much more comfortable in what he's looking at, what he's seeing. He has a zip on the football. He's dropping, spreading around to a lot of different other people. And I know a lot of people going to say, G. Bush, you're doing too much. You guys, it's practice. He's supposed to look that way. He's supposed to, I'm not going to learn anything from Deshaun Watson that we haven't seen already. We got to watch for the games and do all that. I said, come on, man. First and foremost, like I always told y'all, I'm into football. Like, I come from football. At the end of the day, I come from a position, or I come from a place where you talk about getting better each and every day, and how it's important that you put plays and stackable practices together. For a lot of people, it boils down to fantasy football, yards, how many wins, all that good stuff. But for me, I like to see the inside and outside of it. And right here, you can take a look at that bomb he threw to, Jerry Jeudy was able to catch that bomb from Deshaun Watson in the back of the end zone. And so I see a lot of things that are really encouraging for me. I see the pep in his step. I see a lot of different things out there. I see the difference in the offense, and I'm really excited about the possibilities of having a different voice working with Kevin Stefanski, right? Somebody that has a different perspective on how to run offense and what to do. Much more, they do a lot more choice routes now too. And choice routes are just basically adjustments and side adjustments that you do. You might be supposed to run a post on a particular play, but in prior years, the Browns were very rigid in the way they put their receivers out there, and they went about running their routes. If the defense gave you something different, the Browns receivers was going to run that post 99 out of 100 times. It's just what it was. And if it wasn't there, check it down. But now when you have different choice routes, you can have a post, you can have a corner, you can have a sit down. So now you got 3 additional routes that you could potentially run based on what the defense is giving you. Those type of choice routes give you a lot of flexibility and a lot of weapons and a lot of things in your arsenal to attack different defenses. So, sometimes people, try to boil things down to, oh, it's just the quarterback. But no, there's a lot of things that go into it. What is the play concept? What are the scripted plays look like? And then are your quarterback and receiver on the same page? Because now you're going to have to be on the same page more than ever, because now you're going to have to anticipate seeing the same look and be on the same page and throw the ball, whether it's a post, whether it's a corner, whether it's out, whatever route it dictates that you run based on that formation and based on that coverage. So those are the things that the Browns are doing. Those are some of the things that I've seen in camp. And again, shout out to everybody out there who's had this content on Twitter, letting Browns fans get an opportunity to see what this thing particularly looks like and get a chance to see the Browns. You want to keep it locked. You're going to want to keep everything. Make sure you continue to watch the Ultimate Browns. We'll be rocking and rolling the rest of camp. We'll be giving you updates on different things that's happening right now. And I think, before you know it, we'll have the first preseason game on Saturday. So keep it live. We'll keep it locked. And make sure you check it out, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So coming up, I will be going back to 5 days a week after I got a couple days of vacation here at the end of the month. But for the most part, you're going to start to see the 5-day-a-week crew coming back. So we're excited, man. We're excited to get the season going. We're excited to get the Browns content out to you, and we'll continue to do that at a high level. With that being said, you never know where your boy G. Bush is at. You mean radio, television, internet, wherever it's going to be. I always keep the Clippers with me. You see the lights on. If you need a fresh take on sports or a fresh cut on sports, I'm your guy. With that being said, have a great rest of your evening, and go Browns.